Sounds up my alley, really.
With your gargoyle, stroking your gargoyle and then intermittently knitting.
G'day, and welcome to the Vibe Union Podcast, episode 35. It's been a minute since I've hosted, so we're going to find out how this is going to go. Not particularly confident. Oh, I'm joined by some amazing people. Let's all introduce ourselves.
My name is Minti. Yo.
Cool.
Oh, that's
Jason,
a little bit stale.
Jason matched that in terms of coolness.
No. Hello, my name is Jason.
Fantastic.
Done.
I'm Rhath. I've somehow forgotten the dog's name. What's the dog's name?
Ella, after Ella Fitzgerald.
Ella Fitzgerald. Ella is,
Got a little...
if you can't see the little flashy collar,
Literally flashy.
very, very exciting.
This is very loud.
And we're also
Sorry.
joined by...
Bronwen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bronwen.
That was great. That was like, you ring someone and they're like, you ring, and there's a pause and you're like, oh, great, they're there. And then they're like, Bronwen. And you're like, God damn it, it's a fucking message back. Sorry.
Not supposed to swear in the first
Ah,
couple of minutes of a YouTube video.
Sorry, don't worry about it.
Very evolved synthetic human being. A very evolved synthetic human being. A very evolved synthetic human being.
Just for good measure, the third time round.
Just in case no one got that.
Off the top, we also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. I think this seems like an appropriate time to do it. So, oh my goodness, the
Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation.
thank you, Jason. It's been unfortunately too long since I've done it, but Jason came to my rescue. You've got MC duties all the time, so I'm not going to feel too bad about myself.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, the land was never ceded and we are on stolen land and we're very grateful to be able to be here to do this podcast today. But we do like to pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And this is about inclusivity and knowing our history in a way that can help us to impact our future.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
was talking to the mic.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm just
Sorry.
looking at the thing over there.
I've got yes,
Yeah.
right, yes.
Cool.
This is episode 35, as we've already mentioned. And we've just come out of a second lockdown. We're kind of into, 2 weeks of being out and about and doing our thing once again.
Yes.
And recently we had yet another lyrebird, which a vibration variation number 15 off the top of my head, I think, which is our showcase events, our biggest community events, drawing the most people to in terms of people who just want to come and hang out with the artists. It's more of it feels like a big party. It feels like a big family dinner to me, those events. However, it's gotten onto my mind recently, the going from lockdowns back into gigs, back into lockdown, back into gigs, this constant fluctuating, vastly different lifestyles. And how that greatly changes my energy levels, and I'm sure it changes everybody's energy levels in terms of how much you can put into these events, also how much you can put in just socializing with people in general at these events. For me personally, I like being home all the time. But then at the same time, I think I might get myself into a rut during these lockdowns, and I feel like that I just get into this is the norm now, being at home all the time, which again I love, but then being forced to go out to gigs all the time, getting into that routine makes it so much easier to expend that type of energy.
Do you think it's more of a ridge than a rut? Because a rut is kind of like deep, whereas a ridge is like more like a bed, right? So you're just like constantly in bed. I mean, where does the term rut come from? Like where does that originate?
1825.
Thank you, Jason. Mother, do you know?
You were around then. Sorry. I've been here once. I've been here for like an hour throwing shade.
I beg your pardon. Always throwing shade since 1872.
Yes.
Yeah, totally feel you. Like, how do we all cope as individuals with the constant flux of having to go online, offline, online, offline? Are we going ahead with this event? How much do we need to prep because of the possible likelihood that all of the preparation or not all of it, but a lot of it may just fall into the abyss because we have suddenly a cancellation of a show because there's been a spike in numbers. So how do we all individually deal with that? And also, like, my mum is a musician, so there's a difference between the countryside and the city side in terms of their restrictions, but they're still being affected by being at home and not being able to get to see gigs.
Well, then,
You know what really got me is we're not allowed to dance.
What?
Yeah, that's why it's like nightclubs.
In the venues we've been to, I
Yeah.
even started dancing once, and all the people said, "Stop it,
Yeah, it was pubs and stuff
Sit
open, but
down."
nightclubs dancing stuff wasn't allowed. So
yeah, I did see something about that today. A nightclub owner posting on some local Facebook groups or forums talking about this issue that pubs cafe, anywhere that serves food, you can get away with a hell of a lot more. But if it's like, if it's strictly...
that food through your digestion. Oh, you need to move your food through the digestion.
the most professional
we
podcast.
are very professional when it comes to podcasts and in general.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I'm not a huge dancer, so that didn't really even
No?
cross my mind. No, does that surprise
I
you?
totally saw you in like spandangly tights
Spandangly.
at home with maybe a little bit of eyeliner. Oh, speaking of
Greatly misread.
outfits, but I'd like to hear what how
Okay.
you feel about the being indoors versus like being online versus being in live, and how you cope with the change.
I think this time around, having the circuit breaker lockdown was in a way worse because we just started, we were getting into a nice little groove with everything, vibe union wise, doing gigs, doing the Talking Blue poetry and stuff, started getting a big community, nice community with that as well, and then just comes this big shovel and just hits us all and goes, nah, you got to stop. So it's kind of, and it was like, oh, it could be for 2 weeks, could be a bit longer now. Whereas like last year it was just, okay, we're going to be locked down for 3 months, 4 months, whatever. So we're like, okay, strap yourselves in for a long time. And then it was this, and then when coming out, it was kind of weird restrictions. Like you can do this, you can go here, but you can't go to this venue. So some venues for us were open, some venues for us weren't open yet. Luckily they're all open now. So we're Talking Blue tomorrow night, Rodney's Blue Bar, 7 p.m.
Yes.
Sticky plug.
This will come out like 6 days after that.
That's
event.
fine.
I've actually got a little segue just off that, if you don't mind, a little riff off that. What is something that each of you think you have, like, what's something that you've learned during lockdown, a skill that you maybe didn't have in terms of like creating? Could be any type of creation, and we want our listeners and watchers to have a think about that too. So when we had lockdown, we are constantly changing from having to be in venue to then having to not be in venue. What skills do you think you learnt to change and adapt to this new scenario of on again, off again, on again, on again, on again, off again?
In terms of the actual, like, in relation to what we were doing, being quickly adaptable to basically to live stream,
Yeah.
though not a particularly, like, I wouldn't say it's like a skill that you need to study for, obviously, but there's lots of little bits and pieces of software that I definitely had to learn very, very quickly. But I think rather than the skill of live streaming itself is how do you adapt how do you pull community together in different ways really, really quickly in different scenarios, taking our community that is focused entirely almost in a live setting and moving that online really, really quickly and retaining their attention.
Keeping that consistency, not losing your numbers because you're changing, into a different
Something,
venue.
Yeah.
What about
Jason.
I think, talking about live streams is a good one because I think when we did the Circuit Breaker live streams, like I emceed with MQ, and so it was. I mean, I barely had to do anything. The tech side was all you.
You had to
so
organise your carrots.
yeah, microphones. Thank you.
Sorry.
But yeah, I
Ruin the
think
illusion.
yeah, I'm a man of mystery. But I think for me, it was interesting to try to be able to adapt. I'm talking to everyone. Trying to be serious.
It's the location of the carrot.
Shape of the carrot.
We're having technical difficulties. We'll be right back.
So yeah, when I was emceeing,
There we go. That's a bit better. Top's off that one.
Just a tip.
I've taken the top off.
Okay. That's worse. This makes it worse for some reason.
This is great for a visual medium of podcasting.
Yes, we are holding carrots. There are carrots everywhere for those that are just listening, and we've got some half-eaten carrots, and they're sort of in the vicinity of the 4-meter long legs of Jason.
Yes, I am 7 meters tall. I am an anomaly in this world. Anyway, so during the lockdown, when I was emceeing with MQ, it was just kind of interesting. I guess it's sort of a bit of just a narcissistic thing, but having to adapt the emceeing style that I usually do. I mean, I wouldn't call it a style. I guess it's just me talking shit into a microphone when I MC, and having an MC being a far more professional vibe and ability to engage an audience far better than I can.
Okay.
So, which I mean, gosh.
I just realised that. Sorry, that was quite loud.
This is
a bit ASMR for you there.
It's one of the most chaotic podcasts so far.
I mean, we're gonna have it. There's 35 is chaos number.
Well, this is what it was.
What is chaos?
Yeah.
Is
Chaos-
chaos a bad thing?
I think it's creation through destruction.
But is chaos destruction? It's just not order. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not broken. Like
It's a
is a bridge a
rearrangement.
bridge? Is a bridge if a bridge is broken? Well, that isn't chaos because that's a broken thing. Whereas if it's just a bridge that's been sort of moved somewhere else and looks a little bit kind of like out of sorts, it's still a bloody bridge. It's still working. It's therefore not chaos. I'm not sure if this is making any sense, but
I'd say that's a pretty chaotic analysis of chaos.
I'm just,
So
yeah, so you were-
MQ and I decided that we should do this, and I thought it went really well.
I don't think it was chaotic at all. That's not sarcasm.
No, that wasn't chaotic. We're talking about the podcast being chaotic, not the MC.
Oh no, I know. I
Yeah.
realise. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, cool.
What about you, Bird?
I don't know what's going on.
She often gets called Bird, but she just responds.
What's about me?
Oh, you've forgotten the question. All right. Sometimes this happens as well. Where
So that's why she's wearing the helmet. Keep the thoughts in.
Well,
we were talking about chaos, but we were also talking
what do
about
I-
what have you learnt in lockdown?
oh, right, okay.
Being a
Yes,
musician yourself.
I was thinking very hard about that.
And going
I'm not
online.
sure that I've learnt anything very much.
Well, you were able to go online. You were able to.
Well, yes, I did a little bit of Zoom stalking.
Zoom stalking.
Yeah, that's a thing now.
Let's get
Apparently.
that explained. How do you stalk on Zoom?
Well, it's a way of accessing Zoom without actually contributing. So you're just watching other people, but
Oh, that's creepy as hell. Do you sit there with your knitting needles?
Sounds up my alley, really.
With your
That's,
gargoyle, stroking your gargoyle and then intermittently knitting?
yeah. So I guess I could be called Zoom stalker.
Yes. Yes. And look,
Oh, dear, that is creepy, isn't it?
That's
I mean, usually we don't refer to ourselves as stalkers as an actual name. But, it could...
speak for yourself. If you're good at something,
But yes, but you were able to tune in all the way from Newstead. And how have you found the music scene changing out in the country, out near Castlemaine? Because obviously we're in the city.
Near
My mum
Castlemaine.
Bronwen is in Castlemaine. I always call it Castlemaine.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
look at me. I've never been.
We say Castlemaine from who grew up there. I grew up there, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. There you go. We say Castlemaine, but it's totally stupid. Yeah, whenever like a comedian would come through and they do a big show at the Theatre Royal, then they'd be like, "Oh, I've heard you guys call it Castlemaine." Oh, sorry, here I am at Castlemaine, and the entire crowd would do the classic country thing. It's Castlemaine, and it's so
northerner.
it's so stupid.
I love that guy. He's from bloody Castlemaine. I just realised I was chewing at the same time. Dangerous.
Language is so fluid. I mean, like, is it Castlemaine, Castlemaine?
Castlemaine.
I mean, I feel like it is.
How do we evolve accents, regional accents, or if we're not allowed to say a particular name in an individual way?
Especially like in this day and age when we are most of us are online 24/7.
Yes.
We are
Language
interacting.
fluid.
Yeah, we are interacting with people from all around the world. So I've been thinking about this more and more with rapping, especially. Like I've been changing my accent very slightly. I never want to lean too far into the American side of things.
Yes.
Because I can't stand. For some reason in Australia it seems that there's two types of rap accents. There's either you lean way harder into your Australian accent, which I find sounds pretty bad.
Depending on the Aussie accent, because some people can really pull it off. They've got a nice sort of twang.
Yeah.
But other people, you're like,
But I feel like in Aussie hip hop, I feel like it's almost a confrontational thing. Like I think they don't want most people to like it. Like it's a bit of like a you don't get it, or it's kind of punk rock to be a little bit, to be a bit.
I go down with my tinny.
Yeah.
And I like
classic
with the
hip hop song.
Bird
Yeah.
Binny.
Sure.
Yeah, that was the first rap song come out of Australia, I think. Yeah.
But do you think that might be true? That like, because I know that I feel like we've probably all encountered artists who act like they're annoyed that people don't like their stuff, or they're not part of the mainstream. Like, people don't really like people.
Yeah.
We're so underground
But
because
they
the
like
mainstream
that.
sucks. They just want to be anything but mainstream, so they lean way harder into the opposite.
But that's like the Australian kind of stereotype a little bit, is like, I don't want any sort of fuss over something I've done.
Yeah.
But then
Yes.
also some people are like, just tell me I'm good, and that's where I lean. Just tell me I'm good and we can move on. But I think talking about the leaning into, it kind of does seem a bit fake. Going, oh no, I want to be this anti thing, because maybe it is like they want to be so different to that stereotypical American style of mainstream rap, where you hear a lot of arrogance and I've got this, I've got that. Not all of it, but a lot of it. There's that stereotype that comes out of it as well. So I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But
Maybe it's also like embracing it too, because it's like each individual like sound for a rapper is very unique to that area. Like, the UK rap sounds so different to American rap, and why can't Australians just leap into it and totally lean into it? Because that's part of, like, whatever your accent is part of who you are. Like, the way you sound has been shaped by what you've experienced and the sounds that you've heard around you as you've grown up, what you've listened to on television as well. So there might even be some other sounds from overseas. But I think maybe it's that whole thing of rebellion. It's like it's a culture, right? So the rap and expression has an association with a little bit more kind of urban, this is my life, it's intense stuff, but then not
say
as
counterculture is probably
counterculture,
way to go about it.
Yeah, so I don't know a huge amount about rap. I'm just learning about it, but this is sort of something I've kind of like grappled with, kind of thinking, what's the difference between that Aussie sound and the British or the American, and what's my intention for doing this, and why do I think it sounds weird? It only sounds weird because we're so saturated by English and American rap that almost becomes what we identify. Well, I don't know, but that's what I see people identifying with. I'm like, nah, man, just like embrace your sound, embrace your uniqueness. And that will, if you keep leaning into it, that will continue to grow. And that thing of, oh, well, no, you're not meant to like us. I think that's just a facade, right?
Yeah.
Bit of showmanship.
I think though as well, and look, I probably should know more about, I think, Aussie hip hop in terms of its history before I really make any points. But not having enough information to back me up has never stopped me making a point before. So I'm going to go ahead anyway.
It's just an opinion then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just an opinion.
That's called white man privilege, that one.
Come on now. But yes, certainly it is. But the Aussie hip hop that I'm talking about, and I feel like, Jason, you would have heard plenty of this as well, is it's it's leaning also on a much older style of hip hop as well. So it's all very 90s based and very confrontational in terms of the. And so I think that's why my mind goes to that they are leaning into it almost because maybe some of them know that like that particular accent isn't going to be popular with a lot of people because they're like this is just for us, just for here. It only frustrates me when they talk, but then at the same time, that's the culture demands that you talk about being the best, talk about going worldwide, talking about making all this money when you're also trying to be countercultural at the same time. It's like,
so that's a real contradiction, isn't it? You're trying to be counterculture, but also buying into the whole "you're nothing unless you're successful" kind of trope.
oh, this ties so well into the next topic that I was going to talk about. Thank you so much. It's brilliant.
Versus fast lifestyle.
Yes, sort of, because one thing that I'm going to tie it all together. I'm about to bring it all together right now. So one thing that has really been on my mind during these lockdowns and going from lockdowns to gigging every couple of weeks, we might have a different kind of setup. Though we aren't hugely successful in terms of making any sort of money or having a worldwide audience or anything like that, the workload of putting on sometimes 3 to 4 events every single week is just like a non-stop lifestyle of going out to venues, socializing with a lot of people. There's a lot of drinking, plenty of other things.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I do speak for myself.
There is a lot of drinking.
A lot of drinking.
Of H2O.
Sure.
Yes.
There's a lot of I guess you would call it the fast-paced lifestyle elements to that type of to that life. Then going back into lockdown and having to massively, massively slow down because they're so close together, it's forcing me to jump in and out of these two lifestyles. It's made me really kind of think about I actually like the slow lifestyle a lot more. I like being out. I like interacting with people. But for me, I need to have my downtime to regenerate. Otherwise, when I go out, I'm just draining myself constantly. And this idea of going worldwide, being hugely successful is so ingrained into us. But I've been thinking about it more and more that do I actually want to be successful in a way that demands that I have to travel, that I have to be gigging all the time, that I have to be working almost constantly? Or does it actually make more sense for me to focus more on what can I do as a day job? Being more doing mixing, making beats, live streaming, stuff like that. Things that I can do where it's clock off, go have my downtime. Because if I'm always on the road, I know I'm going to be drained all of the time. So I guess to tie back into this counterculture kind of thing as well and talking about being hugely successful, where is the success that actually makes sense for, one, the art that you're making and also the lifestyle that you're living and want to keep living? Because if you like this counterculture lifestyle, if you like this kind of small scale stuff, maybe the small community events that is just for your team, maybe that makes so much more sense than all this talk of let's blow up, let's be the biggest thing.
You want your mic? Yeah.
Sorry, consistency. Yes, I'm so loud. Consistency.
If you keep like that, then that's fine. You can have the mic anywhere you like.
That'll be tiring.
No,
Consistency with concept. You can't just have. I mean, you can do whatever you like. But let's just say you had an Australian accent, really strong, who's talking about, I'm going down the streets and I'm in the hood and there's the drain cellars or I don't know, like catchphrases.
Drain cellars.
I don't know. I was thinking of drain.
Yeah, a Drano. People were
selling Drano.
Well, weren't people eating Tide Pods at one point? It just escalated
you
to
could potentially
Drano.
huff Drano. I wonder if that would do anything.
Yeah, or probably do something.
It'll do something.
Nothing good, but it will do something. Yeah.
Minti, you've given me a great idea.
I'm very happy to
anyway, so you're
the
talking
consistency of
Drano.
thought. So I was talking about drains. Excuse me, let me just drain myself. The consistency of thought. So, if you're going to have a subculture, then it makes sense to be rapping about the stuff that's consistent to you in your world, that's fast-paced, that's slow-paced, that's change, and not just the ideas and thoughts that have been almost borrowed from another culture.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually no. I was just thinking of lyrics. I was listening to J. Cole yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He had a song. I can't remember what the song's called, but lyrics in there. It was like I'd rather hear. I think I'd rather hear rappers not rapping about capping and talking about being a broke rapper because I respect that more. Because it's sort of like the song from Basic was like, you know, these people go out. Some of the lyrics that they go, these rappers will go out and they'll perform and they'll talking about this and that, and they'll go home and they won't be able to pay their rent, sort of thing. It's like they go out and say they've got this and that, they can't pay their rent because they're still on the grind, still trying to get where they're going, and then they're talking about capping and being gangsters and stuff. He's like, and then the lyrics like, I'd rather you talk about being broke and struggling because I respect that more because that is what you're actually doing at the moment.
Real.
And then there goes, I was like that in 2008. I was performing, I wasn't able to get my cake or something like that. And I was like, that's, so I think it's authenticity a little bit, but, and also if you wanted to, like an Australian version, the person that came to was Cursor. I don't know if you've heard much of his. I
recognise the name, yeah.
He talks about, where's he from? Sydney, Melbourne, not Melbourne. It's two different places. New South Wales, yes. I'm from Tasmania. You're all mainlanders to me. He's from Campbelltown in New South Wales, I think.
You so much.
Yes, I know, but we have all the apples. That's it. I don't know.
We're the
apple
Gingers might take over the world. Who knows?
No, we're dying out.
No,
Yeah.
you're a dying breed. Come
Harcourt.
on.
We got the best apples, man.
You mean
There's some apples round Harcourt. There's even an apple festival.
I played at the Apple Festival. That was my first ever gig. My first ever performance is at the Harcourt Apple Festival.
hardcore?
It's also a garlic festival.
There's a potato festival too.
And a garlic festival. There's a garlic beer. It's disgusting.
Oh, ugh. Weird.
I've had a mussel beer, like made of mussels.
Oh, I've had mussel alcohol too. Like, it was so strong.
It's gross.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Yeah.
But then I don't like mussels, so I guess anyway.
So yeah,
Do you like mussels? What do you do? What's this creative thing you're doing here?
We'll be right back.
that's fine.
Oh, sorry. Far out, Brussels sprout.
Maybe Minti should host.
I'm in the hosting chair.
This is green and blue,
Oh,
pink, and
Pink?
pale green and bright blue in occasional parts.
I
you
don't-
want to show the camera? We've got a lovely scarf that's being knitted. The camera's over here, Mum. Here
We are rap and hip hop to the core.
rapping about the wool that we see on Bronwen's knee.
Knitters for life.
It is for life.
That's a joke. That was on
Yeah.
Bob's Burgers or something. So I didn't make it up. I'll claim it though.
Circling back to you.
Okay,
Old mate from Melbourne
Cursor.
or Sydney.
from the mainland. Well, he raps a lot about. Oh, he was like, I don't know how long, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. A lot about taking drugs, cops, feds, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think he's gone a bit feds.
Feds.
Federal police.
Oh,
Yeah, feds. No, talking about how he's keeping everyone well fed. Yeah, he's a chef by trade, rapper on the no. Yeah, I think he's now got. He raps a lot about mental health stuff as well, a little bit, but he still also has the stereotypical lyrics, but does it in more of an Australian way because that's where he's from. So it's still kind of.
Chinny.
But it's still going on about tinnies.
I really want a tinny though. I would love a tinny.
And also he was not allowed on Triple J, so he played.
Why?
They just didn't play his music. They deliberately
okay.
made sure, and so he played into that. It was like, well, I'm the rapper that the news reported that I was, and Triple J wouldn't play my music and stuff. So he definitely.
I think that's not really saying a lot. Triple J.
Oh yeah, I know. Triple J's garbage.
Yeah.
Is pointless.
This is all just opinion. You
No,
know,
it's not. It's
No,
true.
I think factually.
It's so, Triple J, sue me.
Back in the day when we were the young whippersnappers, Triple J was about punk and soul.
I remember when Triple J. Well, actually, it was Double J then when it first started.
Yeah, we started Double J. Yeah.
Yeah, it started as Double J, and it was really cool. And
when
then
was
the
that?
system takes over, doesn't it?
When was that?
1825.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool in like the
when I first started
early
listening
2000s.
to it, I think they just started changing because who was it? He was in Frenzal Romp. Was it the Doctor? Was the thing? Yeah, because
yeah,
you
the
couldn't,
Doctor.
but you couldn't because it was ABC. You couldn't promote your own bands on the radio because it was, but Frenzal Romp was a pretty big like Australian rock punk band coming up, but he couldn't really play them when he was on air because it was
Yes.
conflict of interest. So it was like
Right.
I think he had the good time slot on the. This is when I was first listening to it, so I didn't. So yeah, it was kind of this weird conflict of interest, but he was he was the lead singer or guitarist of this band. So it's a bit odd. But now it's just turned into what
Garbage,
it is.
as you said. Garbage.
Yes,
Sorry.
that's a nice way
Which
to
is a
put
fact,
it.
not an opinion.
Yes.
All right, so I'd like to then go around and kind of ask, because we're all creatives and I think we're all trying, or already, some of us already are living off it. And I've been, thinking more about the term career, because I think like,
It's a funny word. Career is a funny word. I reckon.
I think like for me, career in my mind, I think of like working musicians and working artists, people who are
Who have made a professional career.
Yeah.
Who've made a professional career.
So let's
By talking
compare.
into microphones, yeah.
Considering this is has been a relatively hip hop focused both discussion and also podcast in general for a lot of the time. Hip hop in general, also coupled, I guess, with rock music, always is promoting the idea of like you need to blow up. You need to become successful pretty much overnight is the idea, right? And also success is not simply like, oh, you can make enough money to pay your rent off. It's you need to become successful enough so you can buy a jet, so you can buy a mansion, so you can buy a Rolex, you can buy all this kind of crap. Versus so in my mind, the word career doesn't fit that. That's almost like winning the lottery. While career for me thinks more about what I was talking about before, like doing some mixing work, doing some live work, maybe even playing some local gigs enough so I can pay my bills.
Being creatively fulfilled, stretching your skill set, constantly growing and regularly doing that and being paid for that, as opposed to just writing a hook and then doing the generic thing of buying a jet.
Yeah.
And
Just casually,
buying
yeah.
into commercial. I mean, I guess that's the commercial thing, but then there's a counter commercial as well by not having the jet. Like I'm going to be purposefully hipster or something. That also is another counter to career as
Definitely.
well, because you've got like I'm poor, the poor artist, but maybe that's just also a facade as well. That's like another career option, sort of, in some weird kind of way.
I think it instead of saying career, I think it's more like successful. Because like my thing is that as whatever type of art you do or as an artist, to me, success, like, because people say, oh, they're a successful lawyer or successful whatever. It's if you're for me, it's like I'd say I'd be a successful poet or whatever if I was able to have disposable income after paying bills and rent or whatever, and all I have to do is poetry. Because, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I have to go to work and so I can't do this and that, or I can't come to the studio today because I have got to. If to me, like, you might not be blowing up, you might not be able to afford X, Y, Z, but if all your money comes from the one thing, the creative side, then to me that's successful because you are living off of that creativity. It might just be you could buy a house, an average car, and be able to go on holiday twice a year or something. Not at the moment, but when I won't go down that road. But to me, it's just like,
Five
We're
kilometres.
on to it.
no, don't, no.
Cancelled holidays
No,
a year.
yes,
Twice cancelled holidays a year. Very nice.
But yeah, I think once you be able to be comfortable and not have to worry about doing anything else other than your art, then that's success. But it might not be blowing up, but it's still.
Bronwen, I'm going to throw this question to you. So we have a concept of success now. What do you think the culture of and the idea of success was when you were growing up, when you were our age? 27, please. 27. We're all 27.
Look, I think the whole notion of being a world success is pretty old, to be honest. I mean, like the old long-haired classical musicians, like Mozart and Beethoven and Liszt. Yeah, going way, way back. Well, they took their world by storm. So there's always been people who are superb creatives. Like, I have a more organic kind of approach. Like, we all are creating our own story in our lives, one way or the other. And it's only by having a rich cultural kind of bed that the really great artists can emerge from. Great artists cannot emerge from a desert.
No. Well,
So some people are incredible, Some people are amazing musicians or amazing creatives, and others are not. And some people sacrifice themselves on the altar of success. Many, many sacrifice themselves on the altar of success.
That's interesting because I was just thinking of I don't know who the artist is talking about, like now, like being successful now is compared to any other era. There's I can't remember her artist, but she's like the most liked TikTok ever, and all she did was bob her head up and down.
Do you know what TikTok is?
It's what a clock does. So I'm sure that joke's never been made. But yeah, no, it's the most liked video on TikTok or something, and it was just her like bobbing up and down and making some funny faces to a song, and now she has a full-fledged music career.
What?
Yeah, as I said, like it's just sort of just doing something like that can just bang.
But you say fully fledged. Sorry, you go.
Well, I was going to say this is kind of another topic that can be touched on is because artists and just everybody in general gets frustrated all the time by like people doing nothing and becoming hugely successful. Recently, there's been Twitch has been taken over by women in bikinis in
the pool and spa.
Yeah, there's the
topic and genre.
You're not allowed to. They're changing it now on Twitch, but you weren't allowed to be wearing revealing clothing unless you were in a pool. That was the guidelines on Twitch. And so what a bunch of women did is they put a blow up pool in their room and then they have a pool. So it's like, all right, now we're meeting the guidelines. And everyone came down so hard on them saying, you are ruining Twitch, because they're getting more views than all the actual Twitch gamers and stuff like that. And everyone was coming down on them for doing that. But I was like, but who's clicking on them? Like, it's the
15,000 people or something or more watching someone talk to them in a bikini. I'm like,
but if the audience is doing that, if the audience is doing that, why is it their fault as the creators?
Go get that money, though.
I don't understand how that falls on them. That seems like because then what do you think? All the people who came for the bikini are going to come to watch your Twitch game? I don't think so. I think
they think they're stealing their likes. They're like, this person's getting so many likes, therefore they must be taking likes from me.
Yeah.
But you got to think, like, as you said, right? Like, it's the audience. Are you really going to be taking the audience member who would be watching a woman in a pool talking about, I don't know, eating spaghetti?
I'd watch that. Mainly for the spaghetti content. That's That's
and she's just got like 10 spaghetti in the pool.
That'd be something different. That'd be different.
Pool of spaghetti.
Yeah, pool of spaghetti.
That would be different.
We're getting off topic now, but
no, it's still about creative stuff.
Yeah, it could be a pool of spaghetti, but even that audience, the content is going to be bringing in certain audience members, and yes, you'll have like outliers who might go, oh, maybe I'll watch this Twitch thing, but really, it's just bringing in an entirely different market.
Yeah, but it's a pretty sure bet, isn't it?
It is a sure bet.
I mean, it's a pretty cynical...
But why are they getting annoyed?
Kind of... Well, it's a pretty... I mean, female in bikinis.
I think the argument they're trying to make is that people are on Twitch and they've been playing games for years and they've been honing their skills and strategy, and then all it takes to get 15,000 views or 10,000 views is to...
Woman in a pool of spaghetti.
Is to be a generically... attractive woman in a pool
of spaghetti.
So shouldn't we just
I think that's the argument there. It's like I'm like, I mean, if I was an Adonis, I wouldn't be wearing clothes and be getting money for it. Like
And that's the whole concept of success, though, isn't it, as well? But the thing is, people through all time have been annoyed at people who get famous quickly, who get rich quickly. But what has that person, that's another thing as well, what has that person done behind the scenes to get there? Like, I know loads of people who are serial people who just like done the circuit, and then like they always do like the reality shows. And that's their thing. They like doing that. But they're constantly doing them. They're constantly honing how they can get further on in the reality show. You know, and so that's they're honing their skills.
That is the other aspect of people who get success. Most of them pay their dues, to be honest.
Yeah.
Most of them do pay their dues. They work very hard. I'm okay.
There's because you rarely see the. It's very rare you see the the build up before the success because that's like a documentary like 10, 20 years down the road. Maybe you see the come up, but because I was going to say before actually that for the most part we're selling an escape from your own reality, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if we paint this as like, so if you show the kids like, oh look, you can become overnight success. And look at all these things. You can have the Rolex, you can have the watch, Rolex and the plane, and beautiful women and money and
spaghetti
and all this kind of spaghetti. Then it's just it's an escape from I guess whatever is ailing them at the time. But because it's not a good show. It's not a good escape to show. Look at the 20 years they worked to get to that point.
No.
That doesn't fit the narrative.
That's a really, really interesting point, what you said about being sold something which is an escape from people's own reality, because that is the whole basis of our society. And surely there's some way where we can turn that around and say, how do we create our own reality the way we want it and not the way we are sold it?
Yeah, why create?
Yeah.
Why create? Don't just show us the end product. Like, is there some way of educating people to show people that the getting there is actually really fun? Like, maybe, there's some hard stuff at the beginning, but then once you start, like when you're learning a skill, once you start getting into it, then that can be a beautiful thing, and I think we're forgetting to show that aspect of it.
This is sort of the reason I wanted to bring up the idea of like the slow versus the fast life in relation to lockdowns, because thinking about like the slower lifestyle and also like the community aspect, instead of selling people this astronomical version of wealth and success, showing people that this is enough. If you get to pay, if you can live off what you're doing and then just get to go and hang out and record little podcasts and go and do gigs at Library and stuff like that. I was thinking about this the other day. There was like, if my life is that, plus I go home and play video games and hang out and drink with my girlfriend, and it's like, that's a pretty fucking sick
bliss.
life.
That is
what
absolute
more
euphoria.
could you possibly want than that? What is that? There's like it reminds me of there is a proverb or a little story or something that of like this wealthy man walking past this peasant.
Yes.
You know the one, and the peasant's just sitting there kind of lazing around, and the guy's like, "Yo, what are you doing? Why aren't you out there working?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Why aren't you
man?
out there working so you can afford the things that I have? Why wouldn't you want to work and then you can have these fancy clothes and my big house?" And I was like, "But then what are you going to do?" Well, why are you working to the rich man? And the rich man's like, well, one day I can just laze around. I can just relax. What do you think I'm doing right now? I'm sitting on the ground, relaxing, chilling out. And I think maybe, I'm hoping, I'm sure we've all seen plenty of articles about this recently, about like, there's a lot more people, because of lockdowns, are reassessing. What am I actually doing this for? Why are we working 5 days a week? Why
Yes.
can't I work
8 hours a day when I can do?
Yeah.
What can I do? I can do 4 to 6 hours, 4 days a week. Have a 3-day weekend, and I'm still as efficient.
They're
Yeah.
trialing it in Japan. They're trialing
I think it's
the 4-day
Yeah.
work week, which is fascinating to me, because Japan has such a rigorous, hard work ethic.
Yeah,
drilled
they
into a lot
do.
of
They
people.
have a very particular type of work culture, similar in Korea as well. There's a very strict work culture there, which these things are changing.
Yeah.
But I think if they think they can implement something,
something efficient
and it's
and-
still efficient, and it still has the same culture that they more or less would have in the office, then there's no
That makes
reason not to
sense.
try it. And I guess it's the whole idea of moving forward. And when people are forced into something that they wouldn't normally try, that's when they can kind of go, oh, damn. They might have been skeptical about it before. Oh, that'll never work, you know. But when you're forced to actually try something, you then have the information to make a proper decision as to whether it works or it doesn't work, and whether it works for you or whether it doesn't work for you. And that's that is one really positive thing I think out of the whole lockdown experience is learning how to be so adaptable and to know that what we have is enough. And we can make it work, and you can still be a functioning, successful human in whatever that way is, at home with just a garage, or at work, if that's so what you choose. You know,
Especially for artists as well. Now that we have technologies means where there's no limitation on what we can create. We can create albums to the same standard as the greats can. We can do pretty much fucking anything now. We can make films, we can make TV shows and all kinds of stuff. Just
and then that's where you think, well, then what's the next stage? How do we then expand from that?
I think we need to stop thinking worldwide success and start thinking local success. Or not necessarily local, because I think, focusing online is also fine. Finding your people online is great. But
Don't lose your head. Don't lose your head.
but focusing on just building your communities over building worldwide success and ridiculous amounts of wealth.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that some of the deepest and most inspiring music has come from people, and like the blues and rap too. I mean, I think rap originated in Jamaica actually, but a lot of great music comes from. Actually, most of it comes from the bottom up. And then people sort of take it, they take the blues, they take rap, they take breakdancing. Ballet was originally folk dance. Tap dance was originally clog dances, just people getting together in their communities and expressing themselves through music and art and dance. And that's where we always get our inspiration from. We always get our inspiration, I reckon, from the bottom, from the roots, And so if we are
It's hard,
roots
isn't it?
musicians, so to speak, or roots artists, poetry, spoken word is a great form of art, and that's the real thing. That's not out there being, winner of some competition and then getting taken up and sort of industrialised through your own image. It's just who we really are.
It's such a common thing during, if you're watching documentaries about how did something start, and talking about to reference hip hop once more, watching the greats talk about how they started in New York and all those kind of places, and they're talking about we didn't really expect this to blow up. We were doing this for our little block. We're doing this for our city. We're just doing this for our community, and through that, then it was authentic. And I think that's common through
Because they weren't doing it for anybody. They're just doing it for themselves, for that community.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ties with our Vibe Union is obviously we want to go as far as we can with it and make it a viable a business and viable
Yeah.
everything. But we also are still very conscious about the community that we've started continuing and growing. Because like we've referenced it before, but we did the 2 circuit breaker lockdowns, and then because we had an extra bit of lockdown, we missed out on Talking Blue as well. So we did we gave to the community a live stream with Talking Blue, and it's sort of we didn't have to. There was no one really asked us to that I'm aware of, but it was just we were saying, well, we're going to be home anyway, so we're going to give back to you. We're going to keep doing what we want to do, and I think we kind of it's not in the forefront of our mind going, okay, well, we're going to have to crunch numbers, and this gig that we're supposed to do isn't viable for us. I was going to say medically for some reason, financially. I mean, medically too. Talking about the mental health stuff side of it, but I just can't word sometimes. But I think it's good to have that. Yeah, if your first ambition is, okay, I'm going to do one song and then it's going to be, I'm going to blow up. I'm going to challenge Pitbull for the next Mr. Worldwide. So
P. Diddy for his menu log ad.
Yes. So
You can have it. I know.
was it P. Diddy or Snoop Dogg?
Oh, sorry, Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
I think we've not received direct criticism all the time, but there has been direct criticism of like the way we do things, and I like to take that on and kind of chisel away at my ideals about what we're doing, just to basically test, make sure that we are doing it right, or I'm not just blind. But yeah, we keep coming back to this idea that if we continue to build this community and this foundation, then that is in itself the success, which at the same time actually does raise your chances of reaching that success, that even we're talking about this level of worldwide insane wealth and success that actually comes from building that foundation, that community first.
Community, connectability, opportunity, freedom, authenticity, freedom of expression, and freedom of creativity. And in that, if people can feel nurtured, can feel welcomed, then they can be the best versions of themselves, and they can be the best version in the audience to support that person on stage. That's going to be harboring a beautiful environment for some lovely growth and that direction to the stars, mother.
And if all else fails, we can just become a cult, and they always get news coverage. So I keep saying it all the time, but there's always a backup plan. So
I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah, cool.
I think that's a good wrap up.
Yep.
I think that's a nice little summary of kind of everything we've done. So, well, that's episode 35 of the VU podcast. What a bloody ripper of a time. Thank you, everyone, for coming on board. Does anyone have any final words?
Bronwen? Ella?
I'm going to talk into the mic so there's not dead air for the audio listeners.
So I do just want to do a little closing, like just to, we did the opening for our First Nations people, but I also just want to do a closing acknowledgement. Apologies, I have a little bit of carrot in my mouth, but just really grateful to be here, and we're constantly learning and we're constantly growing, and there's a lot of generational trauma. And I think it's really important to be aware of that. And if we're conscious of trying to learn and understand and be empathetic, then I think that's really a positive way forward. So I'm very grateful to be living on this beautiful earth around us here in Australia. And my heart is with the First Nations people, past, present, and emerging. And I think it is for all of us. And thank you.